Here's a truth worth writing down. You don't get wealthy by accident. You get wealthy by alignment. Alignment with principles, with habits, with decisions repeated daily that at first look small, but over time, they tower like a mountain. You see, life has this strange way of rewarding the observer. Not the complainer, not the dreamer, but the one who pays attention, close attention, to how things work, to how people behave, and most importantly, to what the wealthy do that others won't. Most people live like spectators, watching others win while they wonder, why not me? The answer is that they observe with envy instead of with intention. And that difference, that small shift in perspective, is the beginning of everything. So, let's begin today with this question. What do the wealthy really do differently? Not what they wear, not what they drive, but how they think, how they respond, how they move. And more importantly, how you can learn those habits, adopt those strategies, and attract the results. This isn't about imitation, it's about observation. It's not about copying someone else's life. It's about crafting your own with better ingredients. And the good news is, wealth isn't limited, but discipline is, attention is, and habits, those are optional, but only if you want to stay where you are. So, if you're ready to look past the surface, to study the moves, the mindset, the daily rituals of those who build wealth instead of chasing it, then stay with me. Because today, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about designing a life that attracts it. If you were to follow a millionaire around for a week, you might be surprised. Not by the car they drive, or the clothes they wear, or even the money they spend, but by the habits they keep when no one's watching. You see, the secret to wealth isn't locked up in some offshore account, or buried in a spreadsheet somewhere. It's not hidden in the economy, and it's not sealed off for a chosen few. No, the secret to wealth is repeated quietly, daily, and faithfully through habits. Habits make the millionaire before the money ever does. Now, I've seen it. I've lived it. I wasn't born wealthy. I had to learn it the hard way, the honest way. I remember the years when I struggled to pay the rent, not because I didn't want success, but because I had no idea how success was built. And then someone said to me, success is something you attract by the person you become. That one sentence turned my life. Because if you want to have more, you've got to become more. And becoming more is a habit. It's not a wish, it's not luck, it's habit. Practiced until it becomes who you are. Start with the morning. That's where the millionaires are made before the sun has fully risen. They don't hit the snooze button. They don't scroll endlessly on their phones. They rise with a sense of purpose because they've trained their minds to wake up to vision, not noise. Some begin with prayer. Others meditate. Many journal. The form may differ, but the function is the same. They take control of their mind before the world does. I used to begin my day by accident. Wake up late, scramble through breakfast, rush to get dressed, and then arrive to a job I didn't love, already feeling behind. That was a losing rhythm. But the wealthy, they wake up early, not because it's trendy, but because it puts them ahead. They read, they write, they reflect, they plan, they prime their minds. That first hour is sacred. That's where the day is won. The rest is just execution. Reading, now there's a habit. I often say, miss a meal, but don't miss a book. The wealthy read not for entertainment, but for elevation. They feed their minds what the average person starves from. Pick up a classic on wealth or philosophy or business. You don't have to read 10 books a month. Start with 10 pages a day. 10 pages a day is over 3,000 pages a year. That's the equivalent of a college education without the tuition. I'll tell you something else the wealthy do that's often overlooked, they think. They schedule time to think, not scroll, not panic. Think, quiet time to ask. What's working? What's not? What do I want? What's my next move? See, most people are so busy being busy, they never stop to assess direction. But millionaires, they know direction matters more than speed. They'll spend 30 minutes in thought and save themselves years in mistakes. That's leverage. That's wisdom. Now let's talk about planning. The wealthy don't drift into their goals. They design them. They sit down weekly to set targets, block time for priorities, and evaluate what matters. I had to learn this discipline the hard way. For years I was working hard, but aimless. Then I started writing goals down, weekly targets, daily actions, and the fog lifted. Suddenly my days had aim. My time had meaning. My actions had return. Planning turned random activity into calculated progress. Gratitude, yes, even gratitude is a habit. I don't know any wealthy person who doesn't practice it, either consciously or unconsciously. Why? Because gratitude multiplies perspective, and perspective multiplies solutions. When you're grateful, you focus on what you have, not what you lack, and that attracts more of what you value. I remember writing down 3 things I was thankful for every night before bed. Some nights it was just clean socks and a full belly, but it shifted my spirit, and when your spirit is right, your choices improve. Discipline. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's the foundation. Without discipline, all the other habits fall apart. And let me tell you, discipline is not punishment, it's self-respect. It's saying, I will not let moods control my future. Wealthy people do what needs to be done whether they feel like it or not. They understand that feelings follow action, not the other way around. You don't wait for motivation. You build it by keeping promises to yourself. And if you're thinking, well, that sounds like a lot. I don't have time to change everything overnight. Let me reassure you, you don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to upgrade your routines. One at a time. If you're not reading, start with 10 pages a day. If your mornings are chaos, reclaim the first 30 minutes. If you're scattered, spend 5 minutes each night planning the next day. Small hinges swing big doors. The difference between a wealthy life and a struggling one isn't always massive talent or lucky breaks. More often, it's the compound effect of ordinary habits done consistently over time. A glass of water every day is nothing, but drink it every day for 30 years and your health thanks you. $10 invested today is nothing, but invest 10 every day for 10 years, and now we're talking freedom. Habits compound. That's the hidden engine behind the wealthy. So if you want to predict your future, look at your habits. Not your dreams, not your goals, your daily actions. Because your habits are your true beliefs in motion. Don't tell me what you want. Show me what you're doing, and I'll tell you what you're going to get. And let me leave you with this. Success is not something you chase, it's something you attract by becoming the kind of person who deserves it. And becoming that person begins with the small things, done daily with intention, discipline, and gratitude. Because habits don't just create millionaires, they create the kind of life you can be proud of. That's where wealth really begins. Let me tell you, one of the greatest disciplines you can ever develop is the discipline of tracking your money. It's not complicated, but it is powerful. And sadly, it's something most people ignore, not because they don't care, but because they've never been taught the importance of it. See, money doesn't manage itself. It slips away quietly, dollar by dollar, moment by moment, unless you stand guard and assign it a purpose. And I found that wealthy people, those who have mastered the game of money, they track every dollar not because they're obsessed with money, but because they respect it. And what you respect tends to grow. Let me give you a simple philosophy I've used over the years. The 70-30th rule. You live on 70% of your income. That's your groceries, your rent, your clothes, your gas, your life. Then the next 10% you set aside for saving. That's your cushion, your future stability, your emergency preparedness. Another 10% goes into investing. That's where your money starts working for you, not just you working for money. And the last 10%, you give it away. You find a cause, a charity, a person in need, and you practice generosity not because it makes you poorer, but because it makes you better. A generous heart builds a wealthy life. Now, here's where most folks stumble. They never take the time to write it down. I remember when I first started doing this, I wasn't earning much. A few dollars here and there from odd jobs, some speaking, a bit of selling. But I bought a little ledger and started tracking every dollar. Income, expenses, savings, investments, giving. I used to look at my bank account and think, where did all the money go? But once I wrote it down, I no longer wondered, I knew. That little book taught me more about money than any job ever did. Because what gets measured gets improved. Every month, take 1 hour, just one. Sit down with your finances like you're having a meeting with your future. Add up your income, subtract your expenses, look at what's left. Are you ahead or behind? And if you're behind, don't panic adjust. Find where the leaks are. Cancel the subscriptions you forgot about. Eat out one less night a week. Increase your savings by 1%. Little hinges swing big doors. Let me tell you, tracking your money does something more than just help you budget it. Increases your awareness. And awareness is a form of wealth. The person who's aware of where their money goes will always outperform the person who just hopes it turns out okay. Wealth doesn't come from luck, it comes from clarity. And clarity begins with tracking. If you want to master your money, start by mastering the small things. Because the person who can manage $100 wisely will one day manage $1,000. And the one who handles $1,000 well is already preparing to manage $10,000. It's not about the amount, it's about the attention. Discipline today is freedom tomorrow. Let me tell you one of the most powerful influences in your life. It's the people you choose to surround yourself with. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And let me tell you, it's not just a clever phrase, it's a fundamental truth about how human beings operate. We become like those we associate with. Their thinking rubs off. Their habits become contagious. Their vision or lack of it will either raise your ceiling or reinforce your limitations. I remember when I started out, I was hanging around people who didn't want much from life. They weren't bad people, but their conversation was always about the weekend, about what they were binge watching or how unfair life was. And here I was, trying to change my circumstances, trying to build something meaningful. But every time I left those conversations, I felt drained. Not because they were negative, but because they weren't growing. And that's the trap being around people who are comfortable with stagnation. Over time, you either settle like they do, or you start feeling guilty for wanting more. So, I made a decision. I started guarding my associations. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. I began to seek out people who were going somewhere. People who talked about ideas, not just gossip. People who were building businesses, investing wisely, setting goals, reading books, asking questions. Let me tell you, once I changed my circle, my conversations changed. And once my conversations changed, my direction changed. Now, how do you do it? First, evaluate your current circle, not with judgment, just observation. Ask yourself, when I leave a conversation with this person, do I feel more energized, more focused, more inspired, or do I feel smaller, more distracted, less sure of myself? That answer alone will tell you everything you need to know. And if the answer isn't encouraging, don't panic. It doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you start intentionally expanding your influence. Join a mastermind, attend a local business group, find a mentorship network, get in rooms where growth is the expectation, not the exception. And listen, when you're just getting started, those rooms might intimidate you. Good. That means you're stretching. I remember the first time I sat at a table with people who were earning 10 times more than I was. I didn't say much, I just listened. I took notes. I watched how they thought, and slowly their mindset became my mindset. That's the power of proximity. You don't have to have it all together, you just have to be near people who are on the way. And here's the beautiful part. The right people will pull you up, not push you down. They'll challenge your excuses, not coddle them. They'll say you can do better, not because they're criticizing you, but because they see something in you. Wealthy people don't just protect their money, they protect their mindset. And your mindset is most often shaped by your environment. So ask yourself today, who do I spend the most time with? Who are the 5 voices shaping my thinking, my attitude, my belief in what's possible? And if that circle isn't lifting, you start climbing to a better one. Because your environment is either your cage or your launch pad, the choice is always yours. Guard your associations, like your future depends on it, because it does. Let me share something that changed everything for me, something I didn't learn in school, and something most people overlook their entire lives. It's the skill of influence. Wealthy people understand this. They sell. They negotiate. They communicate with clarity, confidence, and conviction, not occasionally daily, and not always in a suit with a script, but in the way they carry themselves, the way they present an idea, the way they move people to act. Because the truth is, income is tied to influence. The better you are at moving people, the better your life tends to move. Now, when I was young, I was shy. I didn't think of myself as a salesman. I thought sales was something pushy people did. But then I learned that life is sales. Every conversation is a form of persuasion. You're either persuading someone of the value you bring her, you're being persuaded that you have none. And once that clicked, I made it a priority not to just study a product or a script, but to study how to communicate ideas that help people make decisions. Because sales done right is simply helping someone say yes to something that serves them. I started simple. I practiced introducing myself with more confidence. I learned how to ask better questions. I paid attention to tone, to timing, to listening more than speaking. And then I practiced. I role-played with colleagues. I recorded my own voice to hear what I really sounded like. I studied the great communicators, not just salesmen, but leaders, speakers, teachers. I watched how they moved pied plano, with pressure, but with presence. One of the best habits you can build if you want to increase your wealth is this: send one offer, make one ask, or deliver one value-based message every day. Just one. Send a proposal. Share a lesson. Make a pitch. Ask for the meeting. Recommend your product or service. Reach out to a potential partner. Why? Because it trains your mind to move ideas forward. It teaches you to not just consume value, but to create and communicate it. And don't get stuck thinking this only applies to business owners. If you have a job, learn how to sell your ideas, your value, your solutions to your boss, your team, your customers. If you're building a personal brand, your ability to speak and write clearly is your currency. You don't rise by being busy. You rise by being seen, heard, and trusted. That comes from communication. Think about it. Every time someone gets promoted, it's not just because they worked hard. It's because someone influential believed in their value. And usually that belief was earned through clarity, consistency, and connection. When you develop the habit of communicating daily, whether through writing, speaking, or even just listening deeply, you build momentum. You stay top of mind, and opportunities start to flow in your direction. I remember a young man who came to one of my seminars. He told me he was struggling to get his business off the ground. I asked, "How many offers have you made this week?" He said, "Well, none. I've been planning." I said, "The market doesn't pay for planning. It pays for value delivered." So I challenged him. Make one ask a day for the next 30 days. One phone call, one email, one post. He came back a month later and said, "That changed everything." People started responding. I started improving. And I finally made my first sale. You see, it's not just about the result. It's about becoming the kind of person who moves people, who builds bridges, who takes action, who speaks up. That's influence. And that's a skill you can build. Not in a day, but daily. So if you want to increase your income, start by improving your influence. Speak a little clearer. Listen a little closer. Show up with value. And make sure each day you've done something that puts your message into the world. Because when you speak with purpose, the world starts to listen, and wealth follows those who can communicate it. Let me tell you, one of the habits that separates those who grow wealthy from those who stay stuck is not just action, it's reflection. Most people work all week and never stop to ask if they're working on the right things. They stay busy but never get better. They chase activity and confuse it for progress. But the wealth life builders, the thinkers, the ones who recito something simple and powerful, they pause. They ask questions. They reflect weekly. And because they do, they course correct before life pulls them too far off track. Every Sunday, I sit down with myself. I make it an appointment. Just 30 minutes, but I treat it as sacred. I pull out a notepad and ask 4 questions. What did I earn? What did I learn? What distracted me? And what can I improve? You'd be amazed what clarity shows up when you look your week in the face. See, wealth isn't just built with spreadsheets and investment sites built by people who know where their time, energy, and focus are going. You can't multiply money if you're bleeding time and attention through distractions you never acknowledge. Let me walk you through how this works. The first question, what did I earn? It's not just about money, although you should know your numbers. It's also about asking, wait, where did value come from this week? What actions produced results? What clients paid me? What deals moved forward? If you're in business, this keeps your income connected to your efforts. If you're employed, it reminds you that your paycheck is tied to your value, not just your hours. And if the answer is not much, that's your signal. It's time to change how you're showing up. Second question, what did I learn? This is gold. Every week brings lessons. From wins, from failures, from conversations, from content. The question is, did you catch them? If you don't write them down, you won't. I once learned more from a failed meeting than I did from a full course because I sat down afterward and asked, why didn't that go the way I planned? That single lesson improved every meeting that came after. Reflection turns experience into wisdom, and wisdom builds wealth far faster than just hard work. Third, what distracted me? This is about honesty. We all have things that steal our focus. Maybe it's your phone. Maybe it's people. Maybe it's fear disguised as busyness. But when you name it, you can face it. I remember realizing one week that I was spending more time reacting to messages than working on my goals. That awareness alone helped me shift my schedule batch, my responses, guard my mornings, protect my focus. The wealthy know that attention is their real currency, and they don't waste it. Lastly, what can I improve? This is where the course correction happens. Maybe you wasted time. Maybe your conversations weren't intentional. Maybe your schedule was reactive. Whatever it is, you don't beat yourself up, you adjust. 1 degree at a time. Small shifts, made weekly, lead to massive transformation over time. You don't need a revolution every week. You just need to get slightly better than you were yesterday. That's the compound effect. That's how progress really works. See, most people only reflect when life forces them to, when something breaks, when they get sick, when the bills pile up. But those who build wealth reflect by design, not by disaster. They don't wait for breakdowns, they schedule breakthroughs. And that's the secret. A simple weekly ritual that brings awareness, focus, and direction. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. And it works. So let me challenge you this Sunday, block 30 minutes. Turn off your phone, sit down with a notepad or journal, ask those 4 questions, and be honest with your answers. Then do it again next week. And the next. Watch how your clarity increases. Watch how your distractions decrease. Watch how your decisions sharpen and your results follow. Because wealth isn't built in a day. It's built in the decisions you make every week when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when it's just you and your life and your willingness to take ownership. That's the work that counts. That's how you rise. Let me tell you something that might just flip a switch in your thinking. Wealth doesn't follow those with the best ideas. It follows those who solve the real problems. Everyone wants to chase the next big thing, the next trend, the next shiny breakthrough. But the people who quietly, consistently build real wealth, they're not just dreamers, they're problem solvers. They don't just think up clever thoughts, they study frustrations. They listen carefully when people complain. They lean into the pain points of the marketplace because they know where there's pain, there's a need. And where there's a need, there's a door to value. And value, my friend, is what the marketplace pays for. I remember walking into a small business one day, nothing fancy. It was a local printing shop. I asked the owner, "How did you get started?" He said, "Well, my church kept complaining that the only place to get brochures printed was across town and the wait was always too long. So he did something simple. He bought a small printer, set up shop locally, and served that exact need. Today, he doesn't just print for that church. He runs one of the most trusted design businesses in the area. You see, he didn't invent something new. He just paid attention. He solved a real recurring frustration. Here's what I recommend. Get yourself a notebook and turn it into what I call your problem log. Everywhere you go, listen. Watch. What are people frustrated about? What are they constantly complaining about? What's taking too long, costing too much, breaking too often, or just not working well? I've done this for years. I don't trust my memory with million-dollar ideas. I capture them. And you don't need to act on every single one. You only need one good one and the courage to do something about it. Now, I know what some people say, but I'm not creative. You don't have to be. Creativity isn't always about invention, it's about observation. If 10 people are frustrated by the same thing, that's not random, that's a market. If you can make it easier, faster, simpler, more affordable, or more enjoyable, you're adding value. And value is the exchange mechanism for wealth. Think about Uber. Did they invent the car to number? The taxi to number? They just solved the problem of unreliable, inconvenient transportation. Airbnb didn't invent lodging. They solved the problem of unused space and expensive hotels. Look around, there are problems everywhere. Your job is to stop ignoring them. Start studying them. Let's say you hear people say, I hate grocery shopping. That's a signal. Maybe you can build a grocery delivery service in your neighborhood. Or maybe you hear students saying, I wish someone could explain this in plain English. There's an opening. Could you create a course or offer tutoring? The marketplace rewards those who become obsessed with solutions, not excuses. I used to spend an hour every week reviewing my problem notebook. I'd look at the list and ask myself, which of these could I solve with what I know or what I could learn quickly? Which ones can I test simply, even on a small scale? Don't try to build the final version from the start. Start simple. Offer a mini version. Get feedback. Let the market refine the idea for you. Wealthy people test fast. They don't spend 3 years thinking about something they could test in 3 days. One time I noticed a friend always struggled to find good birthday gifts for his clients. That's a small frustration, but I turned it into an idea. I created a sample executive gift box concept, priced it, and pitched it to 5 people I knew. 2 bought, 1 gave me a referral. Was it a $1 million idea? No, but it was profitable. And more importantly, it trained me to listen, to think in terms of value, and to take action on a small solution. That's how habits of wealth are formed. Not in dramatic moments, but in simple, repeated actions that lead you to see the world differently. Poor thinking waits for opportunity to knock. Rich thinking listens for frustration and builds the door opportunity walks through. So if you want to start attracting wealth, stop waiting for inspiration and start looking for irritation. It's all around you. People are telling you every day what they need. The question is, are you listening? Are you documenting it? Are you testing ideas? Are you committed to being a solution in a world full of problems? Because the wealth doesn't come from dreaming, it comes from solving. And the more problems you solve, the more valuable you become. And when you become more valuable, you'll never have to chase money again. It will start chasing you. Let me tell you something important. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid failure, when in fact failure is part of the tuition you pay for wisdom. It's not the enemy. It's not final. It's simply feedback. The wealthy understand this. They've learned to embrace failure, not because it feels good, but because it teaches better than success ever could. You show me a successful person, and I'll show you someone who's failed more than the average person has even tried. That's the truth most won't tell you. Now, the poor mindset sees failure as proof of inadequacy. See, I knew I wasn't good enough. That didn't work, so I must be a failure. But the wealthy mindset sees failure through a different lens. It says, interesting, that didn't work, why not? It says, that was an expensive lesson. Let me make sure I never have to pay for it twice. And that's the key. Wealthy people fail forward. They gather feedback. They review, refine, and restart stronger. I'll give you a personal story. Early in my business life, I launched a seminar. I booked the hotel, printed the flyers, made the calls. I thought I had it figured out. But on the night of the event, only 3 people showed up. 2 of them were friends. At first, I was embarrassed. I wanted to crawl under the table. But I remember sitting in the car afterward and asking myself, okay, what went wrong? I didn't market it properly. I didn't offer enough value in the messaging. I didn't follow up with the invites. And I certainly didn't have enough reputation yet to expect a room full of strangers. That night didn't break mate taught me. That failure didn't end my journey, it redirected it. You see, when you shift your thinking like that, when you stop calling things failures and start calling them lessons, your entire approach to life changes. Now you stop hiding, you stop pretending. You stop delaying action out of fear of getting it wrong. You lean in, you take notes, you adapt, and you grow. Wealthy people have what I call a failure budget. They expect it, they plan for it. When something doesn't work, they don't melt down, they adjust. They know the first product won't be perfect. The first sales call might flop. The first business may not thrive, but every failed attempt sharpens the next one. It's like going to the gym. You don't get stronger by avoiding the weights. You grow by working through the resistance. I've coached people who were paralyzed by one failed venture so they never tried again. And I've seen others lose big, shake off the dust, and build something even better. The difference wasn't in what happened, it was in how they interpreted it. Discipline your mind to interpret every loss as a lesson, and you'll never waste pain again. That's real maturity. That's wealth thinking. And let me say this, it's not just about money. This applies to relationships, health, leadership, everything. The person who masters the feedback loop, the rhythm of trying, failing, learning, and improving becomes unstoppable. Because while the world is waiting for conditions to be perfect, they're out there gathering data, adjusting strategies, and moving forward. So here's the challenge. Next time something doesn't work, pause. Don't panic. Ask yourself, what can I learn? Where did I miscalculate? Who can help me see what I missed? That kind of thinking builds muscle. It builds character. And eventually it builds wealth. You want to succeed? Start collecting failures. Not recklessly, but intentionally. Take smart risks. Learn fast. Document everything. Because someday, when your business is thriving, or your investments are multiplying, or your book is selling, someone will ask you how you did it. And you'll smile, not because you got it right the first time, but because you didn't give up when you got it wrong. Remember this, failure is never final unless you quit. But if you use it as feedback, if you let it instruct instead of discourage, you won't just succeed, you'll grow into someone worthy of success. And that, my friend, is the real prize.